Hello, this is Joey from the Game Club podcast, and you're listening to Talking Smack. This episode of Talking Smack does contain spoilers for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and there is a trigger warning here for mentions of suicide and self-harm. But please, do enjoy the episode.
If you live in the U.S. and are struggling with thoughts of suicide or someone you know is struggling, please call 988-LIFELINE. That number is just 988, or you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255.
Bonjour, mes amis. Oh, it's you. Hello again.
Hello there, and welcome to an all-new episode of Talking Smack. I'm your host, Josh Scholar, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Alex. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I have what is known in the cool cat community as a summer cold, so I have a sensual voice powered by phlegm.
You're pulling the Dark Phoebe from Friends.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to my life for the last, 3 weeks. I'm still dealing with that bronchitis. It's better. They have me on steroids now to help with the swelling in my bronchial area, whatever. Bronchitis, bronchial, I guess. Yeah. To help with that. So if I sound a little more raspy, it's probably because I'm getting more air than I'm used to, and my voice doesn't know how to handle it anymore.
So they have you on steroids, and you mentioned it was for the swelling. You are looking pretty swole. Have you been working out?
No, but I did get an accelerated application request from the WWE. It's a little in poor taste. They don't do as much of that anymore, but you can see it on Cena. He's got those veins popping in his shoulder. Cena's still on some stuff.
Oh yeah,
there are a few guys that you can tell.
And their current owner is not doping at all.
He might be off of it by this point. He was pretty huge in the early 2000s, but he's come down from it. But Alex, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't think you're the loveliest person here today.
I unfortunately am not.
No, we are joined by the lovely Dan from Casting and Gaming Views. Dan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, but I feel bad now because, as we were saying, this is the first time I've met Alex, and you've kind of just sort of put him down like that in front of it. I feel bad now coming in and swooping.
You should definitely feel bad because it's your fault for being here and being the loveliest of Dans.
No, I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I was saying to you before we started, I am very hot tonight. It's we're having our regular mini heat wave now, which isn't as hot temperature-wise compared to some of the temperature you guys get over there. But as we keep saying, we're not built for it here.
You Brits are not built for heat.
Yeah. What are you guys in 24, 26 Celsius over there?
No, so we are 28 today.
Oh, that's miserable.
Yeah, so what's that? I was having a look, that's 82. And tomorrow we're getting to 34.
It's 82 today, and I walked out of the movie theater with my kids just literally an hour ago, and I was like, oh, it's so nice.
Yeah, no, you're going to see me sort of glistening more as the night goes on. I'm not joking. I've got my feet in ice packs as well, just to try, just to not have fans on. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the powdered wigs and the wool suits don't help with the British heat.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. No, nor does all the carpeting and the insulation that we put in for years to keep the heat in.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm fine. Yeah.
Can't you open up a few windows in that castle that you all have, each individual?
I've opened them up on the west wing for now. We'll open the east wing after the recording. Don't want noise from, those outside,
Oh, yes. The peasantry outside with the horses going by.
Yeah. They can get their own podcast, yeah.
So, Dan, you've been on a few times, but your main podcast is Casting Views, but you've also started a new venture called Gaming Views. So let everyone know about that.
Thank you. Yeah, so that releases on Tuesday. So yesterday, when this goes out, it would have been our latest episode. Yeah, it's I met up, kind of became met up with an old friend of mine. You know, we hadn't seen each other for a couple of years, and a few years back we met up again, and you know, we would start going out for walks on a Sunday morning, and he's obsessed with gaming as much as sort of I have been, and so we were always talking video games. So we said, look, why don't we just get this down onto a podcast? So yeah, we do a weekly episode. It's kind of not necessarily focused on reviews, but we'll talk about gaming as a whole, the industry. So I think we've done, well, yesterday's episode is going to be collector's editions. We've talked about sort of RPGs. We've done a deep dive into the Xbox and the original PlayStation. So yeah, we're just trying to just talk around, about the industry and just have a bit of fun doing it, really.
Yeah, it's a great bit of like kind of walking down memory road with a lot of this stuff too. Both of you, Dan and Dan, just really have like the passion you guys have for like gaming history and just the experiences you've had with the games, and the topics that you tackle. Just like it all resonates, and it's a wonderful listen.
Yeah, and thank you. And he's great as well. He's very passionate, and he's really got the bug for kind of like video editing. So for the first time, people can now see me. So whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know. But yeah,
I'll make sure to link the YouTube link when we put the links in the episode description. Yeah. I wish I had the time for editing. Among other things, I don't know if anyone. I have a face for radio, and Alex is a big cat man. I don't know if people are ready for that. So. Gaming views is a lot of fun. Still love my Sunday fun day casting views as well. And then thanks so much for taking the time to be here. Fortunately, Alex and I were able to have today off of work, and we were able to make this schedule out properly, especially since like my weekend is fully booked this weekend. So we're here to talk Expedition 33, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, a game that came out this last April and is sold out everywhere. We're going to talk about that after we get back from hearing from our buddy Caesar at the No on 15 Allcast. We'll be right back.
I'm 15. No, I'm 15. No, I'm 15. No, I'm 15.
So, what's our show about? It's about some dudes talking about movies, just like this.
With Goofy screaming with them.
So you're talking that they should have replaced it like with a Tom and Jerry scream or something like that?
Tom and Jerry scream.
Or you might hear something like this.
Oh my gosh.
That whole movie, waiting to see what happens with Blanca, is like the most aggravating thing in that film. But for the most part, we talk movies from the 80s, 90s, and today. And if you grace us with your ear time, you might hear one of these 30-second gems like this.
Yeah, I was gonna say I did not get a chance to watch this one this week.
Give it to him anyways. We're gonna give it to you anyway. You ready?
I'm gonna give you the 30-second review of Tron Uprising.
All right. Start the clock and then. So give us a shot and listen to the No on 15 Allcast wherever you listen to your podcasts.
No, I'm 15.
Hearing them mention Tron Uprising once again makes me think about Tron Ares that Alex drafted in the fantasy draft.
Shut up. I was trying to go for a sleeper, man.
That was a good sleeper pick, I think, until the allegations came out again.
Listen, Disney is going to do what they do and bury everything. Okay, it's what Disney. Have you seen the size of their parks? There are so many bodies.
Have you seen the size of Jared Leto's cult that he has on his private island?
Hey, where are the files? Show me the list.
That's going to be a very interesting media cycle. Like that could be Ezra Miller levels of leading up to the Flash kind of stuff. If the news gets really into that one, like if evidence starts coming out. But we're not here to talk about the things that supposedly awful person, but probably awful person Jared Leto has done. I said supposedly, good enough for allegedly. We're here to talk about an absolutely amazing game called Clair Obscur Expedition 33 from Sandfall Studios. Their very first game that they created out the gate, which is like this beautiful homage to like JRPGs, fantasy storytelling. And man, I didn't know what to expect with this game coming into it. I remember seeing it on the shelves. I saw the trailers for it, and I thought, that looks a little too complicated for me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play that game, but it looks cool. And then it was up on Game Pass, and I gave it a shot. I played the first 45 minutes, which is so depressing. And we already gave you a spoiler warning at the top with Joey. But again, spoiler warning for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Also trigger warning for, we're going to be discussing the themes of the game, which include suicide and self-harm. But the first 30 minutes, you're like, oh, there's a Thanos situation happening. Something weird's going on. This giant kaiju woman is changing a number on this giant monolith, and people are disappearing, turning into flower petals. I literally started this game probably mid-May, and we're recording this on June 20th. It took me 3 weeks to get back into this game. And then once I got back into the game, it took me 2 weeks to finish it. I played a total of, I think, 32 hours in the game. The reason this game broke me so early is because there's a shot of a mom holding her child's hand, and then she gets dusted away as the number changes. And that hit me in the feels real hard. I'm like, holy crap, this game is going to be a thing. If nothing else, just because of how heavy this is. I don't know if I can have fun with this. I didn't know if I was going to come back to it. But I decided I was going to try it a little bit more when I had a day off of work. And yeah, I started messaging Dan. I was just like, this game is amazing.
I loved getting those messages from you because it was like reliving it again for the first time. So I wasn't saying anything to you, but I was waiting for
you were just
from you.
basking in my awe of this game.
When you know what's going to come as well, I'm also thinking, I'm going to be here for him in about sort of 8 hours time, or something like that, when certain story points.
It's the Attack on Titan method where you're just sitting there watching your friend go through it and you're like, I'm here for you.
Yeah. You don't know what you're facing. Yeah.
Alex, how did you find this game?
Well, I didn't find it. You see, I paid money and then it was sent to me.
You're one of the few people that have an actual physical copy right now.
Yes, but also you can go to Steam or GOG and you can buy it on. You can buy.
I want a physical copy. I don't want this thing to disappear on me like the Gommage.
I had heard about this a few times, and I basically completely wrote it off because the studio is from a bunch of people who worked on the Assassin's Creed games and bailed out, and I was like, well, fuck those guys because fuck Assassin's Creed. In that studio, you guys tricked me with Black Flag, and I have been writing that. You've been writing that. I've been writing that studio ever since with those releases, praying to get Black Flag back, and you bastards have disappointed me.
They've remastered Black Flag almost as many times as they remastered The Last of Us at this point.
I know, but then the quote unquote journalists are like, the best since Black Flag every year, and I'm like, you know what? You keep saying it's the best since Black Flag, and you know what? That's diminishing returns, just like Marvel's dumb every single movie that comes out.
Best
the best since Endgame. Best since Winter Soldier. Yes, exactly. It's diminishing returns. You guys tricked me, but the reviews started kind of coming out. Some of the previews. I'm like, you know what? I like Final Fantasy. The combat looks fun. I like JRPGs. The theme seems interesting, and I realized it was a French studio with the beginning of it because, like all great French literature, it is depressing as hell.
It is so sad. I don't know if I've ever encountered any kind of media that gives you so much happiness and immediately takes it away.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to understand that, Rent and Les Mis are both from French plays, as is the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Or Notre Dame, sorry. I always say Notre Dame to piss off a friend of mine because she's French. So
Quasimodo is the fullback. No one really knows that.
And that's how football was invented, American style. But all good French cinema and is depressing as hell. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be a misery ride, and I am for it. I am sold. Let's the depression begin. Let's see how much ennui we can milk from this game.
I am the ennui.
Yeah, and dear Lord, they nailed it.
They sure did.
This is misery porn that is delightful.
It's misery porn wrapped in an amazing package. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dan, how did you find this game?
See, this one was a real surprise to me. So I hadn't heard of it, and there's a guy at work who's into gaming as well, and every now and then we have a catch up. He's on the Xbox. I think he's got Xbox or PlayStation, but he was looking ahead and he goes, "Oh, that game's coming out on Game Pass next week, Expedition 33." And I thought, well, I've not heard of it. And he goes, "Well, I think you'll like it." And I don't know how I'd not seen sort of a screen of it or what, but a couple of days beforehand, I think I started seeing videos appear on TikTok, and that it just looked great as well. It just looked like a stunning game. So I downloaded it, and just started playing with it. And as you said, Josh, the opening kind of half hour or so, that was it. That's all it took for me. So I was really pleasantly surprised because it literally crept up on me.
I saw the launch trailer on April. I'm looking at the Discord for the Game Club pod because I was like, this looks like a game I'm not going to play. Like, there's something about the way the gameplay looks where I'm just not going to touch it. It looks like an amazing game, but not something for me. And so I put in the Game Club pod game suggestions. I think it came up on Game Pass like the next week or so. And I was just like, I'll give it a shot. What the hell? I've got nothing better to do tonight. And I think the biggest praise I have for this game is in the animation. I've never seen a game with as expressive eyes as I've seen in any other video game. Like I don't know. I haven't played a lot of like the high realism games in modern era. I usually stick towards like stylized story-based games, but usually faces are very flat. They're like the teeth always bother me. But like when they're in not even like they don't even do cutscenes. They do something similar like Halo Reach and Mass Effect, where like, yes, it's a cutscene, but it's still like within the game engine because you can customize your character. And for the most part, I think with the exception of like 2 scenes, your character is always in their customized outfit. So even just built within the game engine, the expressiveness of the eyes tell the whole story of what the character is going through. And I've never seen that in a game. Again, from my perspective, I from my experiences with games, because I'm not the deepest gamer in the world. Like I haven't even touched Baldur's Gate 3 yet. Like I said, I prefer my more cartoony games that are either more like puzzle based or platformer based, story based in some way, that aren't like first person shooters and other games that tend to be more photorealistic. So the eyes and the facial acting were so amazing in this game.
Yeah, if you want something like that, you're gonna have to look at like Horizon Forbidden West, because that studio, just the motion capture with Aloy's face and those other actors are just fantastic. But if you want something that's just as good, you're gonna have to go with Ninja Theory, because Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, and Senua's Saga 2, I don't know what kind of dark magic that studio has, but that actress they have for her, I don't know, they must have paid James Cameron to like steal her soul or something, because I swear there's not an eye twitch or like gloss that is missing from her when they're just focused on her rage and her passion and her despair. But back to Clair Obscur, the French are good at misery, which is why you feel that, Sean.
Yeah, and this is what I was going to say, to link a couple of things you have said together about the misery. So well done on bringing that back round. So the misery will be the theme. And Josh, what you're saying about like the facial expressions, because I agree with you. So what I was going to say is another thing that kind of sold me on this game is that, yes, it is a very sad game, but it's told in a very human way. Mm-hmm. You know, sort of the themes of like kind of family and grief, etc. But so it's not just, this is sad, we're going to make you feel sad. It's done in a very human and emotional way. And I think the facial animation is the icing on the cake to just help you believe that even more. So I think it's, there's that, but also, I'm not going to say jarring, but whilst we've said that, there are extreme moments of levity as well, isn't there? And kind of almost like goofy humor, which feels like it should be at odds, but again, it just works.
The absurdity of the humor, I think, helps juxtapose the dourness, the macabre of the game, because usually when those moments of levity happen, unless it's like Esquier, which is still kind of tied into the main story, it's usually not tied to the story. It's just something that you can like happen upon.
Yeah.
But usually if you're in like a main quest level or anything like that, like it's very serious. But the game does an amazing balancing act of keeping you engaged with the action and keeping the combat tight, the gaming system tight. The only flaw in this game, which Alex I didn't know, this studio is made up of a bunch of Assassin's Creed defectors. The only flaw I really have with this game is the platforming engine. Like there are mini games that require you to be so precise with your movements, or like you need to jump onto a ledge and you jump like a foot away from the end of the thing, but the game's like, no, you jumped too far into your thing, you're missing it, even though like your momentum is stopped by it. And in any other game with like Assassin's Creed style physics, your guy's going to grab the ledge, but the game doesn't have that refined platforming engine in it. And I think it's because they focus so much more on the combat, but it just makes all the like side platforming stuff that's almost all optional so much more frustrating, because there's mini games where you can get like swimsuits and do little things here and there, and almost all of them are based around platforming. And the one I tried was like the tower climb, and I got really close. I think it was at like the final like fifth of the tower, and I just could not get my character to latch onto the last thing. I remember there was one day where I tried for like an entire hour just to try and climb that tower, and I gave up, because I'm like, what the hell do I even get for this? And I saw it was a swimsuit, and I was like, no. No, as much as I want to see Lune in a swimsuit, no.
Those wretched beach games, I think I did one, maybe two, and then gave up. I got to the did you do like the volleyball one? Did you get to see the volleyball
I never found that one.
Oh my word, that was it. That was enough for me. I then decided not to find any of the others. That was frustrating. And there'll probably be people shouting, oh, that was so easy, but no, not for me.
No, listen, you guys don't understand. If you want your waifu to be in a swimsuit or the French mime outfit, you got to suffer. Right? You got to deal with the poorly
The mime one is easy to get.
constructed-
Those mimes are simple.
Yeah,
At least, what difficulty did you guys play this game on? Because apparently this is also an homage to Souls-likes. Like there's a huge increase in difficulty with certain bosses. And I found that later in the game. I went to Renoir's Den or Renoir's Canvas or something like that. Each fight took like 45 minutes, and that was painful. Not because I wasn't having fun. I was just like, I'm so tired. I don't want to do this anymore. But I played on story mode because as I have mentioned several times, I am very much more interested in the story than I am in difficult gameplay and proving myself to be like the ultimate gamer or whatever. I don't care about how I beat the game. I just want to enjoy myself, and like I said before, this game's story alone is worth your time, let alone the gaming mechanics. Like if you're not even a JRPG, turn-based RPG fan, you need to try this game, because your conception of what a JRPG or turn-based RPG is not what this game is. It is so much more active and intuitive that it's worth trying. But I'm very curious to know what difficulties you guys played on.
I did story. I'll put my hand up. I did story as well. I've seen Alex's face. So that's I'm not invited back. No, I did story because my view is I don't need extra stress in my life from video games, which is my solace from the outside world. But the one thing I would say,
if you're looking for solace from the outside world, this game is not it.
Yeah. But what I would say though is, even on easy, is that, some of the battles, they're not a walkover, they're not a piece of cake. Especially I think in a recent update, they've made the parry easier in the story mode. But even earlier on, originally in the story mode, the parry, which I think is vital for a number of the battles because it's so powerful, that wasn't easy. They didn't make that easier. It was just, I think, about the hit points, etc. So I'm not going to say it was a walk in the park, but I did also mess up a couple of times because I got so sucked into the story that I completely forgot about the mechanics behind the game, like the pictos, etc. So I just forget. I was treating it like an action game for a long time. I just got lulled into that full sense of security. So
the pictos were a really cool mechanic too.
Yeah.
But Alex, what difficult? Show off your gamerness. What difficulty did you play on?
As someone who has put like 390 hours into Demon Souls, the original Dark Soul, and another 120 into the remake, beaten Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Elden Ring, suffering through a Night Rain, I will gladly attest to you that I have played this damn thing on story mode because I have a very simple reason.
The look of shock and awe on your face when both Dan and I said story mode, and then you're just like, oh, how dare you? And then you come back with story mode.
Well played, sir. Well played.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
So I think it was God of War 3 that had like adaptive difficulty. And so I was playing it and I was getting through this section where there's this guy shooting fireballs from the other side, and you had to like pop Kratos over and use like the new glide thing I think you got from Apollo or something. And I just failed it over and over and over. And finally the game popped up and said, would you like to have the combat be easier? I wasn't in a combat section. I couldn't make this stupid effing jump. Ever since then, if a game gives me the option of an easy mode, I play the damn easy mode because I am not proud.
Pride be damned. I just want to enjoy myself.
Exactly. If you are giving, because most often game developers, the difficulty decisions are actually not anything but just bullet sponges. That's all it is. They just add extra health bar and in armor. You're not actually having new moves, which is something that like the Dark Souls and Demon Souls games often get. So if it turns out that I'm wrong and that like regular and expert mode actually have new moves and dynamics and you have to pay attention, sure, I'll play it then. But you know what? If you are telling me this is a great story, this is not COD, this is not something crap like that, I want to play the story with as little friction as possible through artificial means. So yeah, I'm going to play story because I want the story. I want to be invested in the moment, not blocked from the next chapter because of some bull crap like, well, I got the boss 80% down, but I ran out of my mana. No, I'm going to play story, and I'm happy to, because frankly, I finally realized what this game is actually built off of. This game is the French version of Logan's Run, and I am here for it. Every year, the old people got to die, and the number goes a little bit lower. And I didn't realize that till actually I was going to start. I was taking some notes for the podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, this is basically Logan's Run in a very different manner.
In a very French way.
Yeah.
Yes. This game also reminds me of. Did either of you play Eternal Sonata?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eternal Sonata is a Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 game. It is a JRPG that is set during Frederick Chopin's last days alive. When he was dying, not in the game, but actually in real life, he apparently wasn't having this wild fever and was mumbling to himself and kind of like told some odd stories and stuff. And so these developers decided to make a game based around his memories and music during those final hours of his life. And it is one of the most depressing and yet beautiful and amazing journeys. And it has a new game plus mode, which you unlock more of his music throughout it as you're playing it. And this game reminded me of that is like this lovely homage to just music and story and the ability to just progress forward with themes of depression and other stuff. This game is awesome, man. I'm mad at myself for liking it because I was so ready. I'm like, anyone who ever worked for Assassin's Creed, they're all terrible people.
And that's the thing. I think this game needs to have the story scene. I think if you're playing it, I think you need to see it through. It has to be.
It's a story-based game and like almost essential gaming at this point. Like this is the first game this studio put together, and it's probably a top 100 game of all time. Just because of the themes, the visuals, the music. Like, I don't know if I've ever noticed a score in a game as much as I have this.
That is actually something I did want to mention because I was looking up a while back ago. When I'm working, I need noise. I don't like silence, and so I often listen to the podcast. But if I catch up to them, I don't want like my No More Rock music or something because then I start singing along to it. I get distracted. And I was reading this forum, and people will mention that you listen to video game soundtracks because video game soundtracks are meant to be undercurrent. They're not meant to actually drive anything, because you basically need something in the background, but not something that's distracting. And that's why I'm pleasantly surprised when you have something like the Halo theme, or you have like or Horizon has beautiful music, and this music is so damn good. And they found the person to do their music on SoundCloud.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
They were paywalled to audition the person. That's game in the system right there.
Yeah, they found, and I'm like, are you kidding me? They're like going through SoundCloud, and like, hey, I wonder if this person can put together 10 hours of great music and some beautiful themes for each person. You know, up the ante, make it beautiful. I mean, you know, it's rare that you get to know a person's name from music, and this person, oh crud, what is this person's name? Lauren Testard is great. I mean, you can put this up to The Last of Us music, and it would be like they can go toe to toe of what's memorable at this moment.
Let's transition in here real quick into the cast, but first we've been praising this game in the story, but we got to make sure we call out the creative director, one of the co-directors, I'm assuming it's pronounced Guillaume since it's French, Guillaume Broche. Also writers of the story are Jennifer Zved Yen, Guillaume Broche, and Victor Deliard. These three crafted an amazing game, probably a top contender for Game of the Year, and something that just needs to be praised. I hope this walks away with something within reputable gaming awards season. Hopefully like the Last Chance Awards at the Game Club Pod, the top tier in my opinion. But the cast was fantastic for the voice acting as well. Surprisingly, you had Charlie Cox as Gustav, who is the presumed protagonist of this game. You have Jennifer English as Mael, Christy Ryder as Lune, Shala Nix as Ciel, Ben Starr as Verso, Rich Keeble as Monoko. This one I'm going to butcher. It's Max Ensey, Kazrola as Eskie, who also Max did the motion capture for most of the male characters. And then randomly Andy Serkis shows up as the white-haired man / Renoir, which, like, as soon as I saw Andy Serkis as Renoir, I was like, yes, that is the voice. I hear it now.
Yeah. But also, how great a voice is Monoko's voice.
Monoko's voice is fantastic. Yeah.
And I've since seen some videos of him on TikTok, and it's just great seeing him do that voice, but as himself. It's great. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I've become really more appreciative in recent years of like sound and music and voice acting in games. And yeah, this didn't disappoint. As you said, everyone, especially I thought as well, like Mael, I thought was great. I mean, that character, they all do, but she did really good as she had to display that vulnerability. Because, I mean, she's 16 years old in the game, right? So she's seen all this death and destruction through the eyes of a child, right? And that's got to be easy to butcher that kind of performance, I think. But I thought it was done really well.
Is this where we do our waifu tier list? Because I'm ready.
Well, I was going to say, who was your party member? And then we'll talk a little bit more story. Like, what was your main party set? Mine was Lune, Mael, and then I would flip flop between Ciel and Verso / Gustav, because those two characters switch places at a certain point in the story. So like those were I like Monoko as a character, as the design, but he was useless to me in a battle. Like I did not use him at all unless I really decided like I need to grind and get him a little higher. But Ciel, Lune, Mael, and Gustav were like my four mains. Most Lune and Mael were almost always in my group. But how about you guys? Dan, how about you?
So Gustav / Verso, always in there. Mael was always in there. And then once I realised that if I read things, I can understand what they're telling me, I used Ciel a lot more. So it was pretty much, and towards the end, it was, Mael, Verso, and Ciel.
Oh, it was just Mael, Loon, and CL. No. The dudes can take a back seat unless I needed them. No, they're not important. You're not important to the story, okay?
I couldn't fully grasp CL's abilities. Like, I know that she has her foretell cards that she can apply to people, and then she can consume them to cause more damage. But like all of her good abilities consumed the cards. And so I'm like, I don't want to use low tier cards unless they're going to cause good damage. So like, I never really understood her power set as well as I did like Verso and Gustav, where they were just tanks. They had little things. Verso has a little extra thing where he can like go up in rank as the battle progresses, and he can apply more damage, or you can do more damage with his attacks. But like CL had so many nuances to her battles that I was just like, I don't get it. If I have someone that's resistant to light magic with Verso, I'll switch over to Lune, CL, who has the dark magic. Like that, I'll just trade them off.
Listen, I do glass cannon builds, so it's like I don't need it unless the fight's going to suck. I don't need a tank. This is going to be over in the first 2 rounds, or I'm dead and reloading.
I kept my guys really well balanced. Like they had that pentagon that they showed like how your characters are progressing in their abilities, and mine were almost always just like a perfect pentagon. As the game progressed and you get to a certain level point, like you can actually start adding levels to other areas. When you level up like your agility, it might add a few extra points to like your attack or your defense as well. And so once I started realizing that, I started applying my points a little more differently. So like a little bit off center, but for the most part, everyone was really well balanced. And
balance is for the weak.
as I got later in the game and I didn't want it to end, and I started exploring a little bit more, and I ended up in Renoir's place, and I ended up doing like 5 or 6 battles in there before I decided like it's too much. I think I broke the balance of the game because I hit like level 63 in there, which I wish I had realized that, because there's an achievement for hitting level 66. And I was like, I could have gotten an achievement if I just stayed in there for like 2 more fights. But once I got to the final rush of the game for getting to the last boss, everything was like 2 hits because I was so powerful at level 60 compared to what they expect you to be at if you're just running through the story in story mode.
I think it's really frustrating that you don't get the Picto to break the 9999 limit till pretty much the end of the game. I mean, I see why they did that, but yeah, you just kept crying out.
That's such a good Picto, though.
Yeah.
And like, I was shocked to see that one come up, because I didn't like, it's a pretty standard video game practice that like 9,999 is like the limit to what you can hit. And then all of a sudden I'm throwing out hits that are landing like 264. Yeah. And I was just like, holy crap. Because there's also a Picto that allows you it's a 50-50 shot where you're either going to deal 50% damage or 200% damage.
Yes,
and I'm like,
yeah,
it's going to balance out. Why not shoot for the 200% at a 50-50 rate? Like, go for it.
Yeah, I ran that for a long time. But that's a clever thing. You know, you mentioned the Pictos. I saw some people online. There are so many that you look at them and you think, why would I wear that? Why would I use that? It's so negative. But they could be really powerful. So there was a lot, you know, relying on you to be extremely low health, but as soon as you were, it made you mega powerful, or it bestowed sort of buffs, etc., on your party. So yeah, I found I didn't pay enough attention to that at the start. Like I said, I got so drawn into the story that when I do another playthrough, I'm going to have fun kind of chopping and changing those.
Early on in the game, there's a Picto that you can get that is like deal an extra 50% damage, but you can't be healed. And I used that one really early on because I had other Pictos that like kept their health higher, so that it didn't really matter. And my builds were pretty good enough that I didn't have to worry about them dying too quickly. And so there were only like 3 or 4 fights that I had, which again, playing on story mode, sorry for all the real gamers out there. There were only a handful of fights where I ended up being like, crap, I wish I could have healed that person.
So I have a question before we enter this
42
waifu tier list. I'm not the only one who, when they ran into Elisa, immediately first thought was, I can fix her, right?
My initial thought with Alicia was that I got a little nervous because as much as I was enjoying the game, I was like, oh no, this is going to be a reincarnation story, isn't it? They're going to do something where Mael is the reincarnation of this ghost girl who is stuck here for reasons. And she's the destined one to close the portal or whatever to save the world. And thankfully it wasn't that. Well, I say thankfully in the sense that like it's not a stereotypical story, but again, I don't know that I can be extraordinarily thankful in a good way for this story as it turns out, but it's not a bad thing either. We'll talk a bit more about that shortly, but let's hear from Dan about his thoughts on Alicia's appearance and what he thought was happening.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I didn't allow myself to think much of what was happening in the sense of I just was really happy to go along with the story because I think they did some things really well and they hid some things extremely well. Yeah, I didn't know if it was, well, this is almost it. I was thinking, is it some kind of alternate dimension? You know, I was thinking, is it like a mirror world? Which, you know, not that far off ultimately. But yeah, I just allowed myself to get carried away with it because also the whole thing with Gustav threw me for a curve right early on as well. So I didn't know what we were looking at because I thought Verso coming in and I thought at first he's very similar to Gustav, right? So I was thinking, what's going on? Is this like, some sort of weird multiversal alternate reality kind of shenanigans going on? But yeah, it was more, I thought, Andy Serkis's character, Renoir, that he was the more intriguing for me. That was what I kept wanting to have more unveiled on that.
Yeah, the story beats when you get those cutscenes after big battles and moments. They always just give you just a little bit, just enough to be like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean? Because I remember messaging you so many times, but there's one where like Verso gets knocked down and he comes back up. It's like just before you get to the first time you fight Renoir, and Verso gets hit with like some kind of psychic beam or something where they see memories, and he gets up and he's like, was that Verso's memory? I'm like, what does that mean? What is that? What do you mean that is that Verso's dream? Who are you if you're not Verso?
And I think Verso and SGA, don't they allude to a secret throughout? They keep towards it in the camp, certain conversations, if you're doing it at the right time, they talk about a secret they've got. And yeah, you just kind of keep saying, what secret? I know you're going to tell me eventually, but I need to know now, damn it.
Stop being so coy with each other. You both know this thing, so I should know since I'm here.
Yeah, the others aren't in earshot. Let me know at least, yeah.
Let's get into the story structure here, because the game kind of makes you think like, oh, this is Gustav's story. He's going to go forth and he's suffered this great loss. He's lost, so was it Sophia? Sophie?
Sophie.
I forget something like that. His great loves been gommaged, which is what the being Thanos snapped is when the Paintress's number changes to your age and then you get disappeared. So you think like Gustav is going to be the hero of this story. And I remember messaging you, Dan, immediately after there's a scene very early on when they storm the beach of the monolith and Renoir shows up as this mysterious human figure, and he just destroys the expedition crew. Like there's only a handful of survivors left. And like, that was incredible as well, because you're just like, holy crap, like you're just wiping out the entire crew. Like, where's my party? Where am I getting my party from? If the only person alive is still Gustav, this boring pro tag man. And we get to a point where he's found this tree that's just got litters of corpses underneath it, and he's about to pull the trigger with a gun to his head, and Lune shows up and is giving him the rallying cry. And I love the rallying cry of tomorrow comes. And I think it means even more looking deeper into the themes and the story of the like what the actual game is about. And when Lune becomes a playable character, and like I realize I can just toggle my left stick and I can switch between Gustav and Lune, and I see her, the way she glides and just the way she's postured. I'm like, I love her. And we'll get into the waifu tier here in a second, Alex. But like I messaged you immediately, Dan, and I was like, I need to play as Lune forever now. Like, I don't care about Gustav. Like, why is Lune not the main character? She is infinitely more interesting just because she flies.
Yeah.
And like from that moment on, I was not invested in Gustav at all. And like, good for me, I guess, because he doesn't make it to the end of Act 1, which was surprising as well. But they immediately replace him with someone who looks almost exactly like him with Renoir, which I thought was like, maybe that was a graphical limitation, or I've admitted it in the past that like with animated characters, unless they're like stylized like they are in like a Pixar movie or a DreamWorks movie, I'm kind of face blind when it comes to animated people. And so maybe I was just like, maybe I'm just being racist against animated white people. Like maybe because their hair is different and one has a beard and one has a goatee, that's enough. I don't know. But I thought they looked remarkably similar in any case. And I was just like, I mean, they're just replacing the guy with the guy. And then we get to learn more about Verso, and Verso is infinitely more interesting than Gustav ever was. Gustav was only interesting because he had a robotic arm and his girlfriend got snapped.
And I'm really annoyed because I had that moment spoiled for me on a random post on social media. Yeah.
Oh,
I was so annoyed at that. Yeah.
Thankfully, I didn't have any of this spoiled. I think the only thing I had spoiled was the start of Act 3 opens with Mael having like white hair. And I was just like, okay, whatever this is, I'm not looking at any more of it. Like, hopefully that's just like an alternate skin that they did. I don't have any context for it. So let's just move on.
Did you find though with the story? So I want to just quickly go back to the start. Firstly, I love the whole idea of the Gamage, the whole every year an age band of people just get wiped out. I found that a fascinating mechanic, but I don't know if I missed something inherently at the start, but yeah, I just didn't get what was happening until it happened. And that then I was actually really kind of struck by that. So I thought they hid the despair at the start, because you're doing the intro with Mael and you're picking up a flower if you see that along the way, and it almost feels like kind of quite jolly until, like you said, everyone gets snapped out of existence. And the way they did reveal things in the story all the way along, again, you know, we talk about it being sort of a really good game, but every element of it, I found the story really well crafted, and like you said, how they only let you know what you needed to know at the time you needed to know it, keeping you on the hook for that next cutscene, which I think is what helped drive you on to the next cutscene. So yeah, I just think the story again, how it hasn't been spoiled more online, which I think was fantastic. But yeah, to me, this is without a doubt one of the best well-crafted stories I've seen. And yeah, the bit with Gustav, like you said, the scene after with Mael, and she's clutching onto that hand of his, you know, like it's almost like a teddy bear, right? It's like a comfort blanket. It's just that kind of is what kept hitting me until later on where they put that to rest.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point that you bring up, that I think it speaks to the people who have played this game that understand the story and the experience, that there aren't bigger spoilers out there, or at least like they're not as easy to come by. I'm sure the algorithms are out there where if you've been doing any kind of searches, they'll throw something up there. But for the most part, like everything I've seen is not entirely a spoiler. Like I saw like I'd already gotten to the point in Act 3 where they're going around collecting chroma from the corpses to kind of build their own little Return of the King ghost army to help battle Renoir. But overall, like the only thing I'd seen of that was Mael going "Tomorrow Comes," which we talked about it a little bit, like Les Mis. I love the rallying cry of "Tomorrow Comes." Like it's a Les Mis reference. Plus it has so much of a deeper meaning compared to like any other rallying cry I've heard in a game. It's the Luthen thing from Andor where he's talking about like he's fighting for tomorrow that he may never see. That's exactly what's happening here too. And it's like, so good, so deep. I love it. So before we get, Alex, I'll let you pick. Do you want to do the waifu tier list now? Or do you want to talk about Acts 2 and 3 and the deep stuff and then top off with the lighthearted waifu tier.
Let's do the waifu tier list last because that's all I'll be thinking about.
Okay, so Act 2 starts up. As Dan alluded to, they're mourning the loss of Gustav. They've learned that in order to defeat the Paintress, they have to defeat Renoir. And there's this whole backstory that is like slowly being fed to us that Renoir, this all-white girl that is wearing this mask, she's clearly deformed in some way. They're a family that seems like they're immortal or some kind of, they're like blessed by the Paintress is how the game presents it. And they're immortal, and Verso is kind of part of this because they were technically part of Expedition 0. And they've just been there for 67 years. Renoir is kind of power mad. He's immortal. He has all this power. Like, why would he give it up? So he has no interest in stopping the Gommage. The daughter, Alicia, is an identical twin to Mael, but there's not a lot of people that really click 2 and 2 together right away. And Mael keeps having these visions. We go through Act 2, and the big needle drop at that point is that Verso is his son, is Renoir's son. And this is where Dan, if I remember, you told me you thought this is where the game ended, because that sequence in Act 2 ends with fighting Renoir, defeating him. And then you fight the Paintress and you defeat her. And then you find out that not only is the Gommage like not done, but the Paintress was actually holding back a greater power, which was Renoir the dad. And that this world that we're trying to save is not the world. It's like a simulation almost. It's a canvas that these magical real world people called the painters have, and they can create these worlds in them and they can exist in these worlds. And this is Mael / Alicia, who are the same person. This is their brother Verso's canvas, and he died in a fire trying to save her. And their mom, who is the Paintress, this is super confusing to really talk about. The mom is the Paintress, Renoir is the dad, Alicia is Mael, Verso is her brother, but Verso is actually dead. And like a splinter of his spirit lives in the canvas, and the mom is essentially reincarnated it as a way to allow Verso to continue living. But the Verso we knows he's like a clone, and he's just like not really happy about it. This is where the game really challenged me, because I was like, do I care about these people anymore? Do I care about saving this world that I now know is not real? But as Act 3 progresses, I'm really more invested in the theme that becomes the main message, because we find out in Act 3 that it has become Mael's coping mechanism, because she is badly burned in the real world. She's lost her voice. She's lost an eye. She is miserable in her real world life. And this has become a coping mechanism for her. And the theme of the story shifts. And as we progress through Act 3, which I have to backtrack a little bit. Dan, I messaged you about this as well. When they said epilogue after Act 2,
yeah.
I was like, excuse you. This is not an epilogue.
Yeah.
You don't go Act 2 and then epilogue. No, thank you. No. It should have been an interlude, but I think they were trying to get that response of like, the game's over. What?
Yeah.
And then the game continues from there. But the theme of this canvas becoming Mael's coping mechanism for her misery and her depression and her struggles in the real world, that's where like a little bit of the meat of the themes that I really want to talk about are going to get into. But like, how did you guys respond to like that turn in Act 2?
Absolutely loved it. It was a proper rug pull. I thought it was brilliant, because it kind of turned everything, and then it all makes sense, doesn't it? This is why I want to play it again, because I think a second playthrough you'll appreciate some of the interactions a lot.
Try
more.
to find the breadcrumbs and stuff too.
Yeah, because as you said, it's all not been an act, but it is all an act. So isn't Esquire a toy?
He's like an imaginary friend of Verso's. Yeah, he's like a stuffed animal that Verso brought to life in the canvas.
Wasn't like Monoko a pet? Wasn't it? I think,
something like that. Yeah. Another imaginary friend that he just created.
So I loved it, and yeah, we've kind of seen it before where you've got the big villain. Oh no, they're not the villain. But this was done really well because everything, there's no reason to discount, like you said, this giant woman who's ominously counting down and wiping people out. There's no reason not to believe that is, the villain of the piece. So when you then turn that on its head, but also realize that what is happening isn't through any like visions of grandeur, not trying to wipe out sections of people, swathes of people at a time. It's about trying to save the soul of a son who's passed. That's where the conflict in your mind comes even more. And the ending for me, I'm still torn about, what the real ending is. I know we'll come on to that. But yeah, I think they wove so much into that, kind of 10, 15, 20 minutes or whatever. That I think I said to you, Josh, that the last act seemed to just whiz by. And it felt like the first two acts were quite lengthy. And then the last act was just over in the blink because they throw so much at you.
Yeah, the last act is not as story heavy. They encourage you to go grind and build up your characters a little bit more before you do the final push. But you can do some character stuff. You can learn more about the backstories of your characters. Like CL, you learned she attempted suicide at one point. She just decided she was going to go swim as far as she could until she couldn't swim anymore. And we learned through the relationship stuff that Esquier saved CL at one point, and that is a nice little callback to earlier in the game where Esquier says, "Oh, it's you, my little swimmer friend." And it was just astonishing at how many little things they tease without giving anything away. Like, you think he's just this weird eccentric thing that they've already alluded to, that like CL looks like someone else and so does Mael, and there's all these little breadcrumbs that all tie together in such wonderful ways.
It is a fascinating rug pull, and then it's quite beautiful how the story kind of becomes an allegory for, imagine, the developer's experience, where you have these people creating a canvas and other people infusing a story in it, and you have a fight over who should actually win. And which I imagine is probably what led them to leaving Ubisoft and starting their own studio and seeking out a way to kind of like purge themselves of like old entanglements by telling the story. But they do it in a manner that I never felt uninvested in the characters, because finding out that it's a world within a world kind of thing, to me, that actually made me more invested, because it's just like, well, damn it, they're real to me. So fuck you guys. I'm going to save each and every one of you and your swimsuits.
But see, that's where I think Act 3 really challenges you as a gamer. Like, this becomes almost like what BioShock did with the Would You Kindly stuff, where you think they're like, oh, it's just the charming narrator voice directing me on what my next objective is. And with this game, you're like, yeah, these people are my friends now, and I'm going to save them. I don't care if they're living in a simulation. This is what I want to do. But the game leads you down this path with Mael and her struggles and her depression, where she's just like begging for this opportunity to stay a little longer with these people. She wants to live. She says, I just want to have a lifetime here with these people that I've grown to love. And you're like, yes, samesies, girl, like, come on. And as you get to that final fight, I was so conflicted as to who I would fight as and how I would save it. Like, I knew I was going to come back and do the fight over and see how the two endings turned out. But my leaning as a gamer and as someone who is invested in this story was, I'm going to save my boo, Lune, and like let everyone else be happy. And so when at the end of Act 2, when we get this reveal that Mael is Alicia, and that Renoir is doing this to kind of like save her and save the paintress, his wife, as well. I was like, you're turning this awful person who murdered everyone that stormed the beach into an empathetic 3-dimensional character. What are you doing to me, game? Like, I should not be feeling bad for the bad guy. But it makes sense that you're like, oh, he's fighting for something that is good. Like, he's fighting for the right reasons. He's not trying to massacre people. He's trying to save his family. And it was just so captivating to find this villain who was right in his own way. And not even like Killmonger was right kind of way, but just like, he is fighting for the right reasons. We just didn't have the perspective we needed to understand it. And it flips the game on its head. It, like, the rug pull is the perfect analogy for it. And then, like, the rest of Act 3, you're again like, I love these people. I love these characters. I don't want SKA to die. I don't want SKA to disappear. I don't want Minoko to disappear. I don't want Lune, CL, any of these guys to disappear. Like, there has to be a middle ground where they live on in this canvas. But the game doesn't go that way, because that's not where the themes take you. And that's not where the story takes you, because you see that Mael is becoming obsessed with this. And it's just so damn intriguing.
And to go what you said, you know, about how Renoir suddenly becomes this empathetic or sympathetic figure, sorry. Again, it goes back to what I said. It's because of the humanity that runs through the game, the feeling, you know, that it is believable and it isn't, you know, it isn't just sort of cliched or eye rolling. You get the struggle of a father who's clearly, or a man who's clearly losing his family and wants to keep them, and he's trying to bring them from the brink of self-destruction, basically, isn't it? He's just trying to do his best to bring his family back together.
They're all struggling. They're all coping with grief in their own self-destructive ways. And he's the only one that's like, we will get through this together. But everyone is like, I got my own shit to do, or I can't move on. And it's so relatable. Like, you see it, and it's so compelling because it is very true to life, but told through this fantastical storytelling element, which once we get to the epilogue as well, we create a whole different world of questions, because we find out that there's this war between painters and writers. And I'm just like, I need more of this now too, please. Not just like the canvas stuff with the world that I thought was the world, but no, it's the canvas world. Now there's this whole external battle happening where Alicia's sister is off fighting a war with the writers because the writers burned down their house and killed their brother. And so many things come up that, even though like the stuff with the writers never really gets answered in this game, it's not the point of the game, you're still intrigued enough in this world that, like, if they release supplemental materials with books, or I don't know if I want a sequel for this game. I think it's a well-contained story that doesn't really need to continue on, and it's in a series kind of fashion. Like, maybe Clair Obscur can become the Final Fantasy of Sandfall, and Clair Obscur is just the name of the franchise where they just go and tell other stories within it. But overall, the story of Renoir especially, it was just so compelling because of how they handled that turn of, I'm trying to save my family.
Yeah, agreed. And I think potentially DLC down the line where they might expand on the writers v the painters. I could probably see that.
Which again, I don't know if I need it or if I want it. Like, it's an interesting question, but it's not one that I feel like needs to be answered unless the real world exists with the same kind of magical elements that the game world does or the canvas world does. I don't know how you would really work that into it, because I think you kind of break a little bit of the magic of what's happening in the canvas by doing that.
Oh, no. I want Clair Obscur Expedition like 65. I want to see the pensioners going after this. You know, some nice, cool pensioners out there, a lot of salt and pepper looks, a lot of overalls, and some walkers. It's going to be great.
If there is a story element to this that I need a better answer to, is I want to know how time passes in the canvas versus the real world. because that's something where they keep saying like, oh, I've been in here for 67 years. But Mael is 16 years old in the real world. And Verso died when he was like 24, I think. So is like 1 hour in the canvas world like a day, or 1 hour in the real world like a day in the canvas, or like a year in the canvas, because like this whole thing could take place over the course of like 3 days, but you just experience it in real time when you're in the canvas. Or did the story just start and everyone's just written into the canvas as it did? Like I don't know, like that's one of the things where I wanted a little bit more detail.
Just enjoy it, Josh. Don't think about the fact that
I enjoy it, but I want a little bit. I just need a little bit more.
The way I interpreted it was, if you're in the canvas, it's real and passing through, and people are having children and all this stuff. I'm not thinking like anything like that. The people in the canvas are real.
Yep.
And life is being experienced for them. And for the last, I don't know, like 50 years or some shit, there's been a number that every year just gets a little bit lower. That's also partly how I explain why some of the goofier moments is these are people having kids kind of young. Yes. Because they're goofy ass idiots in some manners. I mean, once you're hitting like the numbers like 40, you got to get on that to have a kid and raise it up before you die. Well, and now that we're at like Expedition 30, was it 33? Like those people better have teenage kids, because we're running out of people to raise people.
They should have been breeding by the time they were like 8 to 20.
Yes. It's like, hey, I just entered high school. Here's my 3 children.
That's it. Expedition 9 would have been a tough expedition to go out there and fight the painters.
Yeah, a bunch of prepubescent, not even prepubescent kids.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the sequel we need. Expedition 2, it's toddlers at war.
We would be remiss to talk about the final act of this and get into the endings, because this is where like the suicide and depression stuff kind of comes into play, because I do think it is open to interpretation, but as the game went on and we got to the ending, it really did feel like Mael was essentially asking for permission to just commit suicide. It was her way of like expressing herself in a way that like, I can't continue to exist in this world, in the real world. I need to let go. I need you to let me go. And it's a heartbreaking story, which is again, part of what drove me to lean towards her ending with my first choice of endings, because I wanted to give her that happy ending. I wanted her to be happy. And as we get to it, we find out that we get a very French ending with Mael's ending, because we see this, the theater is rebuilt. Gustav is back with Sophie. Everyone's happy. And then Verso's coming out to play a concert. And as Verso approaches the piano, we get this cut to the black and white stuff where we know like, oh shit, something weird is happening. Something that only the painters can experience is happening. And we get this eerie cut to like Ciel, Lune, Verso, and then we get, and it's all silent, but then we get like a really like discordant cut to Mael, and she's got this like painter's disease that her mom was suffering from. And it just plays so wonderfully macabre in this moment, because you're like, oh, the happy ending is not the happy ending. This is more or less a false positive. And the cycle is repeating itself essentially, because she's got this painter's sickness where she is so invested in this world that she can't differentiate reality from anything anymore. And she is more or less gone. Like she's just there to manipulate and create a world to her liking. And she's not living in the world like she had said she wanted to. And it is a play on the concept of suicide, because people who commit suicide, in their minds, they are convinced that the world is a better place without them. They will be better off. They and the people around them will be better off if they're no longer around. And once Mael gets what she wants, and to not exist in the real world, it is not what she expected. And it's affecting everyone around her as well. Like her dad is even like, I'll see you soon, but we all know that's not actually happening. And that really affected me, especially the way they play that ending. And again, wonderfully French, my little movie. Like they really, if they wanted to cap it off with a little bit of a giggle, you just do the French font fiend at the end. But once that happened, I was just like, oh God, this is not the good ending. I did not expect to feel this way after doing the thing I wanted and saving everyone. And it was so affecting and impressive that what I thought was going to be the good ending hurt so much. And the way I felt about the representation of how the idea of suicide or even assisted suicide in this matter, it played really well in its messaging. And it's part of why I felt like we needed to talk about this side of the thing as well. And why we had the trigger warning at the start of the episode. It plays so authentically within its artistic vision. And I absolutely loved it in the way that it talked about that sort of thing. But that's my interpretation of the ending. I don't know how you guys walked away from. We should talk about like which endings did you play, Alex? Did you do both endings or did you only play one?
Oh, I made my girl happy, and then after I made my beau happy, all I could think of was like the Family Guy skit where it's like shows like French cinema, and it's just people like lounging and sweating and looking miserable,
and smoking
and it says
cigarettes.
Finn.
Yeah, exactly.
It says Finn. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I went back through and I used a baguette to beat the hell out of a lot of people in New Game Plus. And I got the other ending because I'm not a scum saver. I'm not one of those bastards who scum saves and immediately like just plays around and goes,
well, I'm
okay,
sorry, Alex. I had a podcast to do and I needed to make sure I saw both endings without just watching a YouTube video. No shade to you, Dan.
Wow, we're all taking hits here.
Yes. Because listen, there's like 1,500 endings to Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm going to get through every one of them one of these days. But no, for this one, I played it through. And then I got a baguette and I beat people with it. And then I saw the second one. And you know what? I'm not sure what's more miserable. Because the second one is slightly happier, but that means making my beau mad. And then it's like very uncertain. It's very ambiguous. It's like, what is this life for her now? And so I don't know. I don't know if I want to give her the fantasy and just let her living forever in the canvas, or I want to actually be like, no, we're starting over and you're going to suffer through life and you're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it. I
think the titles of the endings are indicative of how we're supposed to feel about it. Because the Mael ending is a life to live. The Verso ending is a life to love.
Oh, you can't judge that.
And I think that plays into how you're supposed to kind of feel towards each ending, because you can live, but you're not really living.
Meh.
And then, but a life with love, that I think is something that is worth living for. So Dan, I've been dying to know, which ending did you go with?
So I went with the Mael ending.
Because
you assumed it was the good ending, right?
Girl. Yeah, and I'm going to say that's kind of what annoyed me about that ending, is that the developers really made sure you knew that they didn't want you to be happy in that ending. But the reason being, there was twofold. So one, I think, Alex, you kind of said it earlier, that whatever we think about the painted world, that it's not real. These people experience pain, they experience fear, they experience love, they experience happiness. So these are ultimately people with feelings, right? And so I was thinking, right, we're just going to keep wiping out generations of these people. And you know, maybe I should have, but I never saw the Mael piece as potentially her sort of like choosing sort of suicide to stay in the painting. I kind of saw it with everything that we knew, that the world that she lived in, and maybe even this war with the painters, between the painters and the writers, has something in there that we don't know, but that wasn't a life for her, that she wasn't going to get to experience or enjoy anything there. So this was her one chance at having happy people around her and having that life for herself. So I kind of thought, is it better for that person to have that moments of joy and happiness, as well as still sorrow within that painting, rather than potentially, you know, you kind of got this image that she was going to be kept away in the real world because of this war, because of this battle, and she, because she's not the kind of the battler that she is in the canvas world. So yeah, I chose that ending purely because of that. It's you've grown attached to these characters as well, right? So it's all of a sudden it's like I can't just get rid of CL like that now. So it all came down to CL basically for me. But no. It was those two elements. So, but yeah, I kind of like that whole artistic end to that ending. But yeah, I kind of, if I had one sort of couple of things to take away, I thought, yeah, like I said, developers really made sure they hammered it home with that ending that you didn't pick the right one.
I really wanted that one to be the right one because it's like, I agree. These are people. It's like, what if the Matrix decided to just shut down and all those people that were connected just disappeared? Like, just because they aren't aware that they're in a simulation doesn't mean they're not people. And the same thing goes for that world, but the sacrifice that it requires, I think, again, really speaks to the theme of accepting something within yourself, even though at the end of the day, she's not the one accepting it. She is kind of being pushed into it because she loses the fight with Verso, which again, can be interpreted in a lot of different ways in terms of like mental health and all these other things. If you go with that ending, I do think the Verso ending is kind of the true ending in my opinion, just because it is about closure. It's about acceptance. And again, the title of that ending is A Life to Love. And I think that keys into a big part of what helps make people with depression, people with suicidal thoughts, what can help them, because they feel they're a burden. They feel like things would be better if they're not around. And Alicia Mael hits all those boxes, whether she says them verbally or insinuates them. It's just all there on the surface for her in some fashion. And her dad's trying to pull her back and she says, let me go. And he finally relents. And then finally Verso is kind of pushed to the point where he just says, I am kind of your brother and I'm kind of the reason you are this way. I'm telling you, go live a life, go do something in the real world, go find a way to be happy, because you have people that love you out there. And if it's here, you're not going to find that, because it's going to become hollow. And that's exactly what happens in hers, where that painter sickness is coming over her. And I thought before then I was feeling so great because, like, again, to the visual effects of this game, you can see like one little tear rolling down the side of her face. And I'm like drawn to that spot because you can see like the rest of her face is pretty clear, but you see that little glisten. And then we get those cuts where it's just silent. We see, but it's eerie in a way. And then we get that cut to the black and white image of Mael with the painter sickness. And it's like, oh no, this is the cycle repeating itself. We're not doing any better. Things have gotten worse for her. And I found it very beautiful in a very dark sense. And I've not played a game like this that has affected me the way that this game has, like, ever. Like, I love Mass Effect. I love Portal. I love the Uncharted games. I love the first handful of Assassin's Creed games. They all make me feel like I'm having fun. They all make me feel good about myself because I'm saving the world in some fashion. And this game, they do that through the first two acts where you're like, everything's like a false positive. You're doing so well. You're saving the day, but then something bad happens and you're like, God, I really just can't take a win, can I? And then you get to the third act and you get just handed this beautiful metaphor about mental health and depression and all this stuff. And it breaks your heart in a way that I was not expecting a video game to do. I've never experienced that in a video game. Like, I know people really are traumatized by Aerith from Final Fantasy VII for forever, but it's not the same. Like, that's not a running theme throughout Final Fantasy VII. I've not played a game like this ever. And I'm excited for my kids to get a little older and see how they respond to it.
Josh, have you never seen Les Mis or
I specifically said video games, and my voice is cracking because of my bronchitis, I promise. I specifically said video games.
Do you know the original ending of The Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Doesn't Quasimodo die?
She dies, and
Esmeralda dies?
is found. Yeah, Esmeralda dies because she's hanged for being a whore. That's the book.
Those darn Romanis.
And Quasimodo is found holding her corpse, also dead. So,
well, this is really honestly, this is like my first real exposure to French media in any real sense besides like satire. I have seen The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which is a fantastic movie.
Also sad.
Very sad, but like also hopeful in a weird way.
Rent is based off La Boheme, which is again about everybody dying from the plague or syphilis or whatever. So from the beginning, I knew this was going to be a sad story. I just didn't want those bastards to punish me for making my girl happy. Okay, listen, I just need an easy life with my happiness. Okay, listen, you took the paintress from me, the big lady who could step on me. So I went with the second best option. I wanted to fix Alicia, and you know what? I thought I did at the end, and you bastards rug pulled me again. Okay, how dare you? And yeah, then I get the other ending, and you know what? I'm not sure it's the love ending because she seems sad. Okay, so shut up.
But she's healing and grieving are a process.
She's sad.
I've just got two things to say about the endings, right? One, the hardest thing about the Mayo ending, though, and Alex, it'd be your take. The hardest part of that is Verso just saying, "I don't want this life. I don't want this life. I don't want this life."
Oh, that so was heartbreaking.
That was awful. That was awful.
So you want to know why I was okay with that? Because it was a dude saying it. If it was a lady saying it, I would have immediately regretted my life's choices and backed away and be like, "I'm so sorry." But it's Verso, and I'm like, fuck you, Andy Serkis. No, that's Renoir.
But that was the only part of me I was thinking, no, I shouldn't have done this. But I do think the Verso ending is the right ending in the sense of I think we're overlooking the one character that I think the ending almost should be about, and I think that is Renoir. Like I said, this is a guy who's lost a son, is losing a daughter and his wife, ultimately. His other daughter is going off in the battles. I think the other ending surely has got to be for him because he's pretty much now seen his family disintegrate, hasn't he?
Well, Aline survives. They save her before she is in the painting for too long. She shows up in the Verso ending.
Mm. But still, I think, losing a couple of children, he's basically lost his children there. And and he then can't grieve knowing that his son is kind of alive. Can he grieve?
You know what I just realized? As we were talking about the Verso ending, I was thinking about, again, weird world building stuff, because Verso died on the 23rd of December, 1924, I think, or something, 28, something like that. 1924. But again, December 33rd. This is Expedition 33. The date of his death is implicated within their expedition. And I think that's a really cool symmetry.
Did you say December 33rd?
Yeah. Weird world building stuff. Maybe they don't have a February, or maybe they work on the 10-month calendar like we should be, since, all the months mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, except for July and August.
Long may he reign.
Get your politics out of my Thursday religion. But Dan, you're not wrong. I think that's part of what makes this game so interesting is that it is so open to interpretation as well. Like, I would love to be able to sit down with one of these developers or the writers and just pick their brain about the themes they had in mind, and like, how closer am I to any of these themes, or am I way off base and just projecting certain things? It's a lovely game. And to get into the Talking Smack rating, this is a must play. This is, if JRPGs, turn-based RPGs are not your thing, I don't fucking care. Play this game. You will not be sorry. And if you've listened to this episode and gotten this far and been spoiled on it, and you're like, I don't need to play it anymore, you need to play this game. You need to be immersed in this world, because they do an amazing job of getting you hooked into it. And even if you don't think the story at the start is all that interesting, the gameplay is fantastic and it continues to build upon itself. It never gets stale. I never got bored with this game.
Yeah, agree with everything. For me, it's a must play. And do you think other studios look at them and say, how the hell did you do that on your first game? I mean, because everything is just stellar about it. It's just solid all the way through every area of the game.
It just pays to go to SoundCloud and you find somebody to do that music. And and this story it's beautiful. I almost feel bad for them because with Larian Studios, they've been around for like 20 years. They had numerous games, the Divinity games, and then they came out with Baldur's Gate 3, and they've been supporting in Masterpiece and well deserved. These guys are coming out with a class masterpiece, beautiful, unexpected thing, and now the hype is on them for the next one. So I really hope that they don't let that get in their heads and they just release something solid they want to do.
Difficult second album, right?
Sophomore slope.
I read an article. I think I shared. No, I didn't. I kept it to myself. I should share it in the Discord. But there's a really good article from Vice, or I should say opinion piece on Vice from Dwayne Jenkins. He wrote this 2 days after Expedition 33 came out. But it's this wonderful opinion piece about how Clair Obscur plays against type, and it goes against the grain because it's a game that creatives made because they wanted to make it. It wasn't a mandate from higher ups, corporate higher ups, to tick boxes. Like JRPGs, turn-based role-playing games are not a thing right now. Like the Persona games make money, but they're a niche market. This is a game that has come out and is making waves because people are connecting with it. People are loving the gameplay, the story. You can't find this on game shelves right now. I tried finding it when I was like 10 hours into the game, and I had to look up on the internet, like, did they ever do a physical release of this? Like Baldur's Gate 3 didn't do a physical release for consoles. So like maybe they just did it digitally because they didn't have the breadth of production. But no, they did a physical release of this game. It's just that everyone went out and bought it. And people are reselling this game for like double, triple the cost right now. And I hate that. And like, do not buy the reseller copies. If you can't get it digitally or anything like that, and you want this game physically, I'm going to go buy this game physically once it hits store shelves again. I'm not giving the resellers my money. The resellers don't need my money. But this is a game that really needs to be played. And I dread the day that EA or Activision ends up buying Sandfall or Kepler and they just strip it for parts and they just want the Clair Obscur IP and they just spent a few $1 million to bastardize this game that is just a treat because it goes against everything that a big AAA game is supposed to be now, where it's just supposed to tick these boxes. It's supposed to be this certain kind of game. And this isn't it at all. It's a story-driven game with combat system that is a throwback to Final Fantasies of yore, but it's also modernized and like similar to, from what I understand, similar to like the Persona games. And it's the most cohesive gameplay experience I've had since Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect 2. Like it has been a long time for me since I played a game this solid. So, Alex, the moment we've all been waiting for, the waifu tier list. Dan, let's start with yours.
So my main was CL. I went with her, and I chose the Mass Effect 2 route on that because at the time, Berso was kind of like a broken character. She was like a broken character with her husband, so it was like the Commander Shepard and Jack in Mass Effect 2 for me. So yeah, I thought those two are going into, because before the rug pull moment, those two are going into like destruction or the suicide mission. I thought these two kind of would be perfect for each other in that sense.
You got two more ladies to talk about, and Minoko and
well,
SKA.
it was for me. It was either between CL and Luna's, but yeah, CL was the main draw. Luna was second. Luna was second there. Yeah. Then everyone else is a distant third.
Alex, how about you? Or should we save you for last since you wanted to do the waifu tier list?
It's CL, Lune, and then Alicia, because I can fix her.
I'm going to keep Alicia off my list because she is only 16.
That's Mayel. Alicia is like 40 or who knows? Who knows? Okay.
Okay. You tell yourself what you need to tell yourself, Alex. For me, it's Lune. Like that, my list is Lune, and then I'll go with Monoko because he likes to cuddle.
Aww.
And then Eskie.
Did you know the thing about Sio? I don't know if she says that if you haven't chosen her in like the romance side of things. The thing she says that really hits home is towards like when they all get back from the expedition, everyone's happy before everyone gets wiped out briefly. Verso's kind of going up to her and she says like, no, I live in a world now where my husband can be redrawn, something along those lines. And that really hits home.
Yeah.
Think, yeah, of course. You know, what a weird scenario that is.
I just remembered there's one thing I wanted to talk about with Verso's ending because the story plays a little differently before you get into like the actual endings. So after Mael gets released from the canvas and losing the fight, CL comes through and she's all pissed because she's like, oh, you've killed me. Thanks. Bye, motherfucker. And she just gives him this hard stare and fades away. And then through the portal in the canvas world, you see Lune and she just takes a seat, just staring daggers at you like, you motherfucker. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I love you. Oh man, what a game. What a time. Is this going to become an annual play for you like Mass Effect is, Dan?
I think so. I really enjoy this. And it's not just the story. It's a solid game in its own right, you know, the mechanics and the battle. So yeah, I can pick it up just to play through and enjoy it for the game it is. Yeah.
Alex, you going to pick it up every year, every couple of years?
Once I 100% it, I'll be done for like probably 4 or 5 years. I had a great time with a great story, and I don't feel the need to revisit it. It's kind of like Saving Private Ryan. I saw it twice. I'm good. You know, top 10 masterpiece, great, you know, Spielberg, you know, shining star of being able to make me feel things, you know, with like Schindler's List and that. Saw it once, twice, don't need to revisit. Probably 4 or 5 years, maybe I'll swing back through. Once they announce what their next game is, be like, oh yeah, let me revisit this.
I think for me, it's going to be a little similar, like maybe 2-3 years. But I think I'm going to like Attack on Titan this, where I'm going to make Ricky sit down and experience this with me. I'm going to make my oldest and my middle kids sit down and watch this. And then when my youngest is old enough, have her sit down and watch me play through this. Or if they're old enough, I'll make them play through it, make their own choices, see how they handle the game. It's a game that the story that I think, yeah, it's going to break people in really good ways, kind of like how Attack on Titan does. So I'm going to probably make it every 2, 3, maybe 4 years, but I don't know that it's a game that I want to pick up and play again in like 6 months, a year, just because of how heavy it is, even though the gameplay mechanics are so good. Like I'm going to be dreaming about how much fun the mechanics are, but I'm also going to be grieving for the canvas people that I have doomed no matter what ending I chose. Alex, please let everyone know where they can join in on the conversation.
If you want to join us in sorrow, you can click the link below, which is tsmackpod@gmail.com, which is our Discord link. Please come, let us know how sad you are, and defend me that Alicia is like 30 or 40, okay? It's been a long time, man. She's not a reincarnation. You shut up, Josh. They didn't do a reincarnation. She was reborn. It's different.
Okay, well, you can join the Discord and let Alex know that he can join his buddy Jared Leto in some election activities, I guess. Please follow Dan on all the social media platforms. Dan, where can people find you?
You can search for me at Casting Views or Gaming Views podcast on socials. Yeah.
You can find us on all the social medias at Talking Smack Pod on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Hive Social. No, I said Hive Social again. There's no Hive Social anymore. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Email us your thoughts, questions, reviews at tsmackpod@gmail.com. Thank you to Leo Allen for our musical themes, Beppo for original avatars, Retroil Studios for our Ricky avatars. Joey Fitz, thank you so much for your help on this week's episode thumbnail, and thank you for your thumbnails. Please like, subscribe, rate, review on your podcatcher of choice. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and go watch some gaming views after you're done here. Most importantly, thank you, Dan, for being here. Alex, thank you so much for striving through here. But Dan, what should people be watching?
I should be watching Star Trek.
Say that again. What should people be watching, Dan? What? The loveliest of dance?
Watch Star Trek.
That's right.
Tomorrow comes